Hello. Welcome back once again. I am Nick Heath and I had katsu curry for lunch.
And I'm Tom May. I'm still in Kobe and I am still sweating.
Thank you very much to all of you for joining us here on the Rugby Report Japan 2019 with Betfred. Hope you've all had a great weekend. It is of course Tuesday. I'm just about managing to hold on to what day of the week it is. Tom, what have you been up to?
All these days blend into one, don't they? I've been commentating on a couple of games. I did Argentina against Tonga back in Osaka at the weekend. Then I came back to Kobe. And what day did you say it was? Tuesday.
I think so,
I did Scotland against Samoa last night in Kobe inside the Misaki Stadium again, which had the roof shut. And oh my God, it was so hot. 29 degrees, 70% humidity. You could almost see the moisture in the air. It was revolting.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, why don't they just open the roof?
I don't know. I went around with a Japanese translator at one point, and he was really confused as to why it was shut. They play with the roof open when they play football there, and he cannot understand why the roof is shut. I don't know whether that's something that World Rugby have said, let's not fiddle around with it, just leave it on. I know one of the stadiums, I think it's Toyota, they can't afford to shut it.
What, it costs too much to do it?
It costs too much to do it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we will get on to that game in due course. We will be previewing 5 games to come up a little bit later. France, USA, New Zealand, Canada, Georgia, Fiji, Ireland, Russia, South Africa, Italy. We'll be looking back Argentina, Tonga, Japan, Ireland, South Africa, Namibia, Georgia, Uruguay, Australia, Wales, Scotland, Samoa. I mean, I think we will only really look probably at 3 of those in any much detail. And we'll hear from some Scotland fans and from Mark and Sue Farrell, which are a couple that Tom caught up with. So, let's perhaps just take ourselves back then to what was a ridiculous surprise, fantastic result for the hosts, everything the tournament needed. Japan against Ireland. It was incredible, wasn't it?
Oh, the best game of the tournament, unless you're Irish. I think the Irish started really well, and through that first 20 minutes, I was thinking to myself, as I was watching it in one of the media centres, I was thinking, oh, this could be a pretty painful afternoon for the Japanese. But as the game wore on, they just turned off everything they were doing. The pace with which Japan played the game, and some of the skills they've got are incredible. Given some of the lack of quality in handling that we've seen during the World Cup, I think some of the skills that we've seen from the Japanese, the deft touches, flicks out the back door, they're a team to be reckoned with, I think.
Do you think, how much of it do you think is the power of adrenaline and a crowd behind you? Because, I mean, even at sort of 60, 65 minutes, they were tearing after everything. Their tackle technique was incredible. For all the countries that are being penalised for this sort of stuff, all of the Japan players were getting proper low, chopped tackles left, right and centre. The Irish kept passing the ball back to people in space and all of a sudden finding their ankles shackled again. It was just brilliant. But there was a bit of me that just thought, I don't know whether they'd be able to do this in any other place, in any other atmosphere, because just the world was with them, the crowd was with them, and it must have just been firing them beyond any sense of fatigue.
Well, I think if you think back to that game in Brighton in 2015, that was an upset. But I think to have done it twice now in successive World Cups on the big stage when it really, really is required.
And this one felt much less like a kind of smash and grab. This was just a bloody good win, right?
Yeah, it was just organised and they knew exactly what they were trying to do. And I know that they've tried to tee themselves up as the fittest team in the World Cup. And at the moment, you'd probably have to say they look like they are. They just do not stop running. I mean, they would be an absolute nightmare to play against. You'd just be like, piss off, go away.
Just tire, would you? Well, it was an amazing result. So good for the tournament. Plenty of footage across social media of everybody enjoying it in the fan zones. It knocked sumo off the back pages, all the front pages as well, in Japan, across the newspapers. So, absolutely brilliant. Of course, the inquest has already begun with the Irish because we saw them look, great in 2018, pretty average in 2019, a bit too much of a dip, losing by 57 points, 15 at Twickenham in the warm-up games. But then, didn't they look good against Scotland? And, no, it's all gone wrong again.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say not quite sure where the Irish are right now.
Yeah.
We'll find out. I've got them on Thursday, still here in Kobe against the Russians. Now they're going to win that, and that might be a game that gives them an opportunity to get into a bit of a groove. But they've just got to beat these next two teams. They've got Samoa after that, and that'll be a very physical test. But having seen them last night, I don't. If you hang on for half an hour, they disappear. They've got no sort of endurance or fitness to their game, and they just blow up. Now, the Irish, look, on their day, they can beat anyone, as we've seen when they've beaten the All Blacks. But there are weaknesses there clearly. I think the weekend that they probably took the Japanese a bit lightly. They made a lot of changes. Sexton was nowhere to be seen apart from in the stands eating his popcorn. And I think second time round Schmidt might do it slightly differently.
Okay, right. Well, we'll move on to Australia, Wales, Scotland, Samoa. But first of all, a word from our sponsor. The Rugby Report is sponsored by Betfred. The action's been amazing so far, and who'd have picked Japan to beat Ireland last weekend? Just the 5 games this week. Lovely stuff. The US tackle the French. Best of luck, Canada. You'll need it against the Kiwis. It'll be a big hit-a-thon between Fiji and Georgia, and Ireland surely won't get turned over by the Russians, right? Well, a couple of Springboks will want a pizza the action against Italy. See what you did there. And Betfred are double delight on Ireland against Russia on Thursday. So back the correct first try scorer, and if he bags a second, we'll double your odds. That's double delight with Betfred. 18 and over, begambleaware.org. Full T's and C's apply. See betfred.com for more information. When the fun stops, stop. So Australia-Wales was arguably one of the games of the tournament so far. Proper good old arm wrestle between these two sides, and Wales squeaking their way to the winning scoreline. That was another one to really enjoy.
Yeah, I watched that in the fan zone actually here in Kobe as I wandered into it. So discovered it by mistake by walking around some monstrous building, and what an atmosphere it was down there, and everyone was cheering for their team to go on and try and win that game in what was that was like a proper game, wasn't it? Big hits, controversy, great pieces of individual skill, collective brilliance from both teams.
I've seen our mates at the attacking scrum, Dan Killick, saying it was just the sort of game that perhaps Reece Patchell needed of all people. If he is going to be, now he is in that understudy role to Dan Biggar after Anscombe went, he then, had a bit more of a confident performance, and that could stand Wales in good stead.
Definitely. There was one kick, and it was towards the end. I can't remember. It was slightly to the left of the post, and I thought that those posts must look so narrow to him, given the opportunity that he's had in the past.
Yeah.
And that to me seemed a big moment for him individually more than anything else. The fact that he kicked it, he was almost like, right, I am capable of making the big moments stick in these Test matches. And I thought he played well. I thought the Australians were dead and buried when Wales were, 20-something up.
There's a bit of that quality from Rugby Championship stuff, though, isn't there, in the Wallabies, that they can look a little bit down, but then they can rally and all of a sudden put people through holes.
Yeah, well, I think they were properly rattled by that controversy around the sort of Karevi-Patchell thing.
Yeah.
Which obviously led to a 3-pointer. And then pretty much off the kickoff, then that was when there was the intercept. And that was pretty much a 10-point swing in a 2-minute period.
Yeah.
And that was the Australians really on the ropes then. That was more of a mental issue than anything else, I think, for me, from the Australians. So if you took that aside, I think the game would have been a lot closer, a lot sooner. As it was, they did brilliantly to fight back into it.
And well, it remains to be seen whether Fiji can say anything else in this pool, but it's certainly not looking like it, is it? Australia and Wales looking pretty nailed on to be the two teams that get through. And then Scotland, Samoa, as you mentioned, you were on commentary for that one. Well, Scotland looked a little bit more like their old selves, as you said, against a Samoa side that it just seems that you have to stay in it with them long enough for them to then fall away. You had the joy of approaching a couple of fans afterwards. You've been reaching your hand across the border after some earlier comments earlier in the series. Although when I say across the border, judging by the accent on some of these lot, it's just the border to Surrey.
Well, they all live in Japan.
Yeah, well, they do indeed. Yeah. Well, let's catch up with that now as Tom just gauge the temperature of the Scotland fans.
We live in Tokyo. Yeah, a lot of us live here. Been here for 2 years now. Working on Rugby World Cup.
What do you think on today's performance?
Fantastic.
In more than one word.
Well, you took the mic away from me before I could say any more, but you can't get better than donut. So, what was it 27 donut?
Did she see the same game? I'm not sure. We there's some good. 34-0.
34-0. 34-0.
The perfect result.
Donut is a 0 to me. And I have to say, the first try for me was the best. The kick, the run, and that first try, because we had to wait a little while in order to get that first try. It was a little painful. We thought 3, not so good. Come on, just get something before half-time. And suddenly they burst into action, and it was absolutely fantastic.
So was that pretty frustrating for you guys as on the back of last week, and knowing that you really did have to win this, and you had to get a bonus point? Was that a bit squeaky bum? Did you have to ride out those first 30 minutes because Samoa stepped up, didn't they?
I actually think scoring 4 tries is an incredibly difficult thing to do. Anyway, you know, you can put an amazing performance together and have a huge win and still not score 4 tries. And so to be able to put a performance together like that, where you really dominate all the play and then still put together 4 tries, I think was an incredible performance for Scotland.
They really did need that bonus point, didn't they? Because they're now back into the pool.
They had to get the 4th try, and they got 2 penalty tries at the end of the day. It was very structured the way they played. I didn't think they gave anything away, and Samoa really didn't get into the 25 at all. It was a fantastic performance. I thought really very, very well organised performance.
And probably a game that they can look to get another bonus point in terms of coming up against the Russians. But then Japan last up. What are we thinking?
Japan is going to be. It's always going to have been the game. I was at the 4 years ago in England at the match there, and it was very, very even at half time, and they lost their number 8, and the second half Scotland ran away with it. But this is a different game. This match in Yokohama is going to be awesome. There's no question.
And do you think Scotland can get out of the group? Look, they got themselves into a hole.
Yes, they bloody can.
What are they going to get out of the hole and get themselves into the quarterfinals?
I think the Japan-Scotland game is going to basically be like a final, and it's going to be an incredibly exciting game for literally every fan on the planet who loves rugby. And so I do think we'll get out of it, and I do think that Scotland will end up putting a performance together. But I think ultimately, if that game's a great game, it's a huge, huge thing for rugby as an entire whole.
Given that you have clearly had several drinks, a lot of you, you've done pretty well to get through that interview. The fact that you're stood here with ginger wigs on and Scottish hats, which no one could see, is slightly disappointed, but perhaps we'll get a photo which we can stick with it. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your tournament, and hopefully Scotland will get through to the quarterfinals.
Now, I absolutely love that at the end here. I've got to replay this again. The sort of sense of desperation in this guy's voice.
And do you think Scotland can get out of the group? Look, they got themselves into a hole.
Yes, they bloody can.
Of course they bloody can. Like that's the voice of someone convincing themselves, isn't it?
I think so. It sounded that way. I wasn't. There was a lot of people in behind me as well that were from Hong Kong, and that they just did not sound like they were from Scotland. I think they might have been just taking the piss out of me, to be honest. They had those, like, I don't know what you call them. You know those wigs with like the ginger wigs. They got a barnet like you with like a tartan on top.
Yeah,
They had those on in their hospitality unit, which was quite funny. I didn't think the Japanese really understood what the hell they were doing. But when I met them before the game, they were. I mean, that was probably the time for me to have a chat with them. But they were quite clearly absolutely steamy at the end of it. I didn't have a clue what a donut was, by the way.
Okay, yeah, that was sort of evident. Yeah,
I mean,
took a little while. Donut, bagel, all those terminologies. Anything that looks round.
Now in hindsight, I get it. I just didn't have a clue what she was talking about. I actually went really blank, and I could see her looking at me thinking, "Oh, he just doesn't like talking to me." But I was actually just trying to think, what the hell is she going on about?
Yeah, just wanted some late night food, clearly.
Yeah, she's had a few white wines, I think.
Because the Scotland fans, they're not the only people that you went out and about having a chat to, are they? Tell us about Mark and Sue Farrell briefly before we play this clip.
Well, they had a slightly different way of arriving into Japan. They arrived on September the 1st, which great, fine. Well, they left on May the 1st, I think. They've driven over here to the Rugby World Cup, which is incredible. I think, as you'll hear in the interview, Mark bought a military vehicle and did it all out, put a bed in it and stuff, and they've been driving around and they've gone through a ridiculous number of countries, and the brakes have failed only once. He said it was pretty hairy, but I would imagine it probably would be if your brakes failed in God knows where.
Yeah, certainly. Well, let's have a little listen to these guys. Amazing way to get to the Rugby World Cup.
Okay, so basically we drove from Devon in the southwest of England. We drove all the way through Europe, through France, Belgium, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, across the Caspian Sea on a ferry, through Kazakhstan to Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, up over the Pamir Highway, the second highest highway in the world at 4,500 metres, down into Kyrgyzstan back into Kazakhstan into Russia. We entered Mongolia. We did the full width of Mongolia from west to east. Then into the back end of Russia, where we headed for Vladivostok. We had one deadline on the whole trip, that was to catch the ferry. Just the one deadline, which we made that in good time. So from the ferry, Vladivostok, we went down to South Korea, had a week in South Korea, went up to the North Korean border, to the demilitarized zone, had a wave at the soldiers up there, and then came on back and then got on the boat to get to Japan for the 1st of September.
And what was the date you left?
We left on the 1st of May, so exactly 4 months.
An amazing trip. Now, Sue, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. How many arguments were there about directions?
Oh, I'm the navigator, so there weren't any arguments.
And did you plan it yourselves, or is there a route that you looked up, or how did you go about doing it?
We planned it ourselves. We knew we wanted to do certain places. We wanted to do the stands. We wanted to go to Mongolia, and the rest kind of fell into place around that. Wanted to go to lots of different countries. So it all fell into place really. There were other people doing the same sort of trip who we were following on social media, so that helped in the planning a lot.
So they're here as well?
No, the main person we're following isn't a rugby fan, so she's somewhere else, but we met guys along the way doing the same trip, cyclists mainly, and another couple in a van who are doing the same trip, who will be here, I think. Yeah.
So talk to me about that. You're in a camper van, or you're in your own car, or what is it?
Okay, so the truck we've got, I bought it 3 years ago. It's an ex-military Land Rover Pulse ambulance. So it's an ex-military vehicle, which I bought, and I've converted into a camper van. We've got everything we need on there. We've got water, gas, we've got a cooker, we've got a shower, we've got solar panels, so we've got everything we possibly need. 2 really comfortable beds, really, really comfortable ride. Being a Land Rover, no air conditioning, so the faster you go, the cooler the breeze.
And what are some of the amazing experiences that you've seen along the way? What are your top experiences?
Well, driving the Pamir Highway was really the top experience for me. That was really very exciting. It was remote wilderness. It was cold. It just felt extraordinary, really. Yeah, and meeting people along the way and the kindness of everyone we met. The poorer the people seemed, the kinder they were, and we've just had no problems at all. It's just been awesome.
What a fantastic pair they are. Absolutely inspirational. So much fun I'm sure they had along the way. And why not? If you fancy the chance of doing something like that, then do it. Did they have a sense of smugness on their faces about it all, Tom?
They looked like a pair that had just done the best trip of their lives. They've always wanted to do a road trip. And they were absolutely buzzing by it. You'd think by the time you got here from the ferry from Vladivostok down to, I don't know, South Korea, wherever it was, and then across, you'd think, oh my God, I just want to get there now. But they're loving it. They're driving around Japan. They're not jumping on the bullet trains. They're parking up in amazing campsites, as they say, and they're meeting loads of people and they're having the time of their lives.
Good for
I think
them.
it's a bit of a letdown. They're not driving home, to be honest.
Yeah, there was that bit. Yeah, very good. Well, lovely to hear from them. So good job on catching up with them. Right then, let's have a look at the 5 games that are coming up then. Starting, of course, on Wednesday with France against the USA. It's an 8:45 UK kickoff. It's a 4:45 in the afternoon kickoff at the Hakatana Mori Stadium in Fukuoka. France, 12 changes for them. Raka is in. Exciting. Gael Fiku picks up his 50th cap. Now, we've got 2 people in these previews who I can't believe are captaining their countries for the first time. Here's the first one, Louis Picamol's 81st cap, first time he's captained his country. Bit of a surprise, that, for me. And the USA, 8 changes for them, 4 of them enforced. Of course, John Quill's red card, he's gone home. David Ainu, he's gone home, having picked up an injury inside 3 minutes against England. Paul Lasike and Will Hooley are coming back from having taken knocks themselves. The French are going to be very similar to England, at least in terms of their game plan, Six Nations style side. It's going to be another tough afternoon for the USA, isn't it?
I think it is. Given what Gary Gold said in his post-match interview in Kobe, though, he won't want another performance like that from the US team, and I don't think they'll give us another performance like that.
They just need some ball. 30% possession, apparently.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it was at times it looked a bit like men against boys, but they have to get it right against this lot because they're capable of playing some brilliant rugby. And you look at their side, even their locks, are more than capable of playing in the back row, especially Leroux. They're going to be mobile. They're going to shift about. The camera is unbelievable. And then to see Raka playing and Guitoun as well, who lit up the Champions Cup, didn't he, for Toulouse? I think they're going to have a tough afternoon, the Americans, but it'd be good to see if they can bounce back from the level of performance we saw against the English.
Yeah, I just really want to see them firing a shot other than the consolation score that it was in Kobe. Okay, New Zealand against Canada. Canada will, they're coming in off that 48 points to 7 loss to Italy. They make 6 changes. It's 11 changes that Steve Hansen makes. And Kieran Reid and Sonny Bill Williams are a couple of those who are in this game that started in the 2011 meeting that was a 79 points to 15 win for the All Blacks. There's something sort of quite, I don't know, amusing, obvious, I appreciate, but because I guess you only have a 31-man squad for a World Cup, you can't put in an entirely weak team, can you? So although you sort of look at a game like New Zealand-Canada and think, well, I'm sure New Zealand won't stack themselves, you've still got a backline of TJ Perenara, Mo'unga, Sonny Bill Williams, Goodhue, and the wings of Ioane and Geordie Barrett and Bowden Barrett at the back. I mean, Canada are
absolute
going to be given a hiding.
shite, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, how good are they? That's a team that they're just swapping in.
Yeah, and some chap called Ben Smuff on the bench as well.
Yeah, and worth a mention that Scott Barrett, Geordie Barrett and Bode Barrett, I think they're the first of 3 brothers to play in a World Cup together.
There we go.
Which is an incredible moment for the Barrett family, isn't it? Ardy Surveyor, he's going to be wearing those goggles.
Yes, he is. Yeah, they're looking good.
Which could be interesting.
Are we going to see over 100 points scored by New Zealand?
I think if there is a game where we're looking at that in this round, or certainly to date, this is the one. I think there are probably another couple coming down the line. Yeah, there's probably another couple of games coming down the line which could reach a ton, but this is certainly one of those that the Canadians are going to have to be defensively alert.
Yeah, very nicely put. Georgia against Fiji. Georgia name a third captain in as many games. They've not done that before at a World Cup. Sharikadze will have the captain's armband. Fiji, 11 changes and 13 from the Australia game are back in after the slight horror show against Uruguay. Pekele Yato is one of those who's back. Now, of course, Fiji beat Georgia 37 points to 15 last year in Suva. But as we already know, in this World Cup, Uruguay have beaten Fiji. So Georgia beating Uruguay surely means Georgia beat Fiji, right?
Yeah. I mean, if that's the way we're going to work it. I mean, that's another backline where they've made changes and they've got Lamani Volavola, Radradra on the wing, Bottia and Nyathaleva in the centre, Tuasova on the other wing, and Murivalu at fullback. So, I mean, which makes you scratch your head. Yes, they've made changes and they didn't have all of those players playing, but they had enough quality to beat Uruguay. What a massive mistake that was from the Fijians to not win there, because I think if they'd beaten them and then they beat Georgia, then it set them up brilliantly. I just don't know where they are mentally now. We'll find out soon enough, I guess. But this is a sort of game where if they think, oh, we've blown it, God knows what could happen. Georgia could beat them, right?
Well, yeah, you never know. 6:15 then. That one is on Thursday morning, a 2:15 kickoff at the Hanazono Stadium in Osaka. Then on the same day, on Thursday, Ireland against Russia, 11:15 kickoff UK time. I know that the Irish have put out a bit on social media. It's almost like a letter from Joe Schmidt asking the Irish to be allowed a couple of hours off work, I should say, on Thursday. That one taking place in Kobe, in the Kobe Mizaki Stadium. If they've still got the roof shut, well, it could make it all fun and games in terms of handling once again. Yeah, exactly. 4 kept on from Ireland's loss to Japan. Omani, Earls, Ringrose and Carney. This is the other captain, Johnny Sexton, captain for the first time on his 86th cap. Can't believe that he hasn't led the side before.
First time? Oh my God.
Extraordinary, isn't it? Him and Pickamoles, first-time skippers. Russia, 9 changes. Artemyev, captain for the 33rd time. It's going to be
that Tash, hasn't he, old Vaz? He's got to get rid of that. That's horrible.
It's going to be an Irish win, and boy, do they need it. But I think as you have touched on already, it's it could be well timed. I think the opportunity for them to put some points on the board. And then on Friday, into Pool B, South Africa against Italy. That one's a 10:45 UK kickoff, 6:45 in the Shizuoka Ikopa Stadium. South Africa have made 10 changes from the team who beat Namibia. Khaleesi is back. Italy haven't yet named their team, but it looks by the lineup that Erasmus has named relatively early that they're making sure they're not going to lose 20 points to 18 like they did to Italy in Florence in 2016. They're going in fairly well tooled up to make sure that no mistakes are made.
Yeah, I think out of the teams that they've got left to play in that pool, they need to be armed for the game against the Italians. They have the potential, the Italians. I just don't know whether they can put it together for more than, half an hour in a game. And that against a South African team that's, it's a bit like New Zealand, isn't it? They can make some changes and they've still got a huge amount of quality everywhere. Mapimpi was just running them in the other day, wasn't he? They've got such big blokes as well that can carry hard, and Vermeulen's back in. What's his name? Lou de Jagger. Etzebeth. Name and you try and stop them, and then that makes the backline's job so much easier when they're getting front foot ball off the likes of those fellas.
Yeah, Yeah, so that one, taking place on Friday, South Africa against Italy. Our next episode, incidentally, will then feature the next 5 games: Australia, Uruguay, England, Argentina, Japan, Samoa, New Zealand, Namibia, and France, Tonga. Mentioning England, Tom, have you seen there's been quite a lot being talked about the fact that the England team have had a bit of handbags. They've had some psychological input to get them all on the same page. How it's been incredibly beneficial for them that they've got some skeletons out of the closet and had a good old rant at one another to become a tighter unit. Is that new in any way in at the top of elite sport?
No, but I think what I did find weird was the fact they were still mentioning 2015.
Yeah,
it's like that's 4 years ago. Like, if you're still holding on to that, there's something going a bit wrong, isn't it? I mean, if you're still bothered by something that was 4 years ago.
But I guess it is the next time in a
to
World Cup to feel that you've got to put things right. So I can kind of understand that these things will be sticking with you. You don't feel the same.
Yeah, I don't get that. No, I mean, I get the fact that you have meetings and you're quite you're very direct with each other and you have honest opinions. And if people aren't performing well, then you highlight that and you point. You don't point a finger. Actually, you hold people to account, and everyone's accountable for what they're doing and for their performances. And if they're not up to scratch, you point them out, and that can be a bit awkward at times. But, let's stop banging on about 2015. 2019. Let's crack on.
Fair enough. So I had a little day off yesterday. Had a little wander around Ahori Park here in Fukuoka, and surprise, what else did I do? Went to an onsen.
Got in an onsen. Got naked and got in an onsen. Standard. How many times is that? Every time I WhatsApp you. Oh, sorry, mate. I'll WhatsApp you back in a minute. I'm just naked in a swimming pool.
My third of the trip. Not too many, but I'm probably going.
Whatever. 3 in a day, mate.
They are very nice indeed. I highly recommend them.
Clearly.
What else have you got on the cards then as we round off episode 7?
So one of the guys in my production team, one of the guys that works for Supersport normally, he has found the place for sushi. So I'm going to head over there in a bit.
It's called Japan.
Sorry?
It's called Japan.
Well, no, like the place in Kobe for sushi. So I'm going to go there. Then I'm going to have some Kobe beef tomorrow again, because that is unreal. I might head down to, now forgive my pronunciation, but I think it's called Himeji, where there are some temples and some castles. But I want to avoid this storm that's heading the way. I don't want to get wet, basically. I'm a big tough fella, but I don't really want to get wet, because apparently if you get wet out here, you get very, very wet.
Yeah, well, I think the typhoon is certainly, it's not going to cause any cancellations, but I think we may get a touch of it. Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you very much once again, Tom, and to all of you who have been tuning in. Keep those reviews coming on iTunes. If you are able to leave us a little comment, then we would be very, very grateful indeed. Our thanks once again to our friends at Rugby United, and of course to Sean and the Fill Your Boots Rugby Initiative. Do keep in touch with them if you fancy a game or you can help make games happen. Really good stuff happening with those guys. But that is it from me and Tom for now. We look forward to you joining us again next time. Cheerio for now. The Rugby Report Japan 2019 is sponsored by Betfred. We've loved every second of the tournament so far, from Japan's win against Ireland, the craziness between Wales and Australia on Sunday, and of course the clash of the Titans when South Africa and New Zealand went toe-to-toe. It's been a special tournament, so why not check out Betfred's specials on all the games from Japan? They've had player specials, results specials, and even more. Find them all on the Betfred app, available from your app store. Whenever you bet, Betfred. 18s and over, begambleaware.org, full T's and C's apply. See betfred.com for more information. When the fun stops, stop. This has been a Rugby Media production.